Thanks, Jake.
What'd he do now?
Circus Charlie hasn't been selected for the top 100. Maybe it's time. This is going out to YouTube right now, so this is awesome.
Yeah, no. We get a veto still, don't we?
Yeah. All right. We are live. I see us.
I also see us.
Okay, well.
Hi, see us. Hi, us.
Then whenever you are ready.
16 of them already. Good grief. We'll get 17 in like 8 years. Today on. Hello and welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel, the 163rd. We got 10 times more than Final Fantasy. Holy moly.
Uh-oh.
How'd
We
we
may
do
not
that?
we may not have audio.
Well,
hold on.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
don't have audio.
Oh no, I have audio. I just checked. I have audio on YouTube.
Yeah, I hear us. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, I can hear us.
Scare us like
Yeah,
that, man.
Sound is so low.
Remember my first day. God damn.
Is the sound check if the sound is low, if you would, please. I don't know that I can fix that. But yeah.
Sounds just fine to me.
Yeah, it seems good to me.
Okay.
You guys are yelling at me if I put my volume all the way up, so
Yeah.
Wow.
all right,
Yeah.
Sounds
off
good
to a
here.
great start.
All right. Okay. Well, do we want to kick that
get the
off again,
technical
or do we
stuff
want to roll with it? We could start over.
I'm good
Yeah.
with it.
The volume seems fine on my end. It's very loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, anyway, Final Fantasy 16 is what we're talking about today. Only one of us has a PS5, so only one of us has actually played the game.
That's not true. There's two of us in this podcast that have a PS5.
No. Here.
Oh, within
The other one is not present. So,
truth. I am the
of
correspondent
three
to the
of us,
correspondent.
Yeah. So, Sinistar and myself are just playing it vicariously through Chard.
Living the dream.
So, yes, I am joined by Sinistar and Chard Monk. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
I honestly, I've only ever beaten one Final Fantasy game, so I play them all vicariously, so it's fine.
And probably
That was
all
7,
through me.
right?
Yeah,
I think
7.
I've only beaten
The
like
original
4 of
7.
them, so
Yeah.
The original 7.
I've played a lot of them.
Yeah.
I've only beaten like 4 of them, I think.
Yeah, the original 7 is the only one I've ever beaten.
I've beaten all the numbered ones and a few non-numbered ones.
And the
I have
hidden
not
gem
come nearly that close.
tactics?
No, I did not finish Tactics. I wanted to throw that in a dumpster fire and light it up and watch it burn. That's what I wanted to do with Tactics. So
I foresee not a similar ending on how you feel about the game, but a similar ending. I foresee a similar ending in 16 to what Tactics did.
Mm-hmm.
What, lighting it on fire?
No. I mean, the way the game ended and how it wasn't a very happy ending and the sort of fallout of everything. I foresee that kind of thing with 16 based on what I've seen of 16 so far.
I can get that.
But, yeah, 16 has been out for, what, 4 days at this point? Or is it like a week?
No, it came out the 22nd. So we're over a week.
8 days.
We're at 12 days deep. Okay.
8 days.
The overrated.
8 days. Yeah, I can math. I can count.
The other
16 days.
The other
16.
The other 12.
16.
The other 12.
Half of the game. Half of the game's numbers.
I do want to call
with that a lot lately. I apologize.
Oh, you're good.
That's
I do want to call out. I prepped our Discord chat for a very controversial episode today, which this may be. But the actual controversial episode that we were talking about has been delayed so that Jake can come in and have his piece.
Yeah.
Because
he
had
a
lot of colorful things to say about us. So we were all talking about it on MP.
That's another episode where Jake's opinions are going to get heavily stepped on. And even sometimes they won't be. I'm sure he'll still see it that way.
He got the wrong people to do this podcast with him.
Love you, Jake.
Awesome.
Swinging a miss.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 16. Right now, it's only a PS5 exclusive. I think I saw estimates that it won't be available on other platforms till like November next year. So we're looking at like a year and a half. That's
I know that
man.
I know that the Sony imposed exclusivity is 6 months, but obviously it's porting time, and hopefully they take the time to port it well.
Yeah, this game,
you know what,
this game
though?
needs some TLC.
It may not just be that 6 months when it comes to big Final Fantasy releases like this, because every time it takes a while. I don't think it's just porting time. I think it's also a sort of sweetheart deal where, you know, they get a bigger buffer because Sony gives them a little more or something. That's my suspicion. I can't say that that's true, of course, but yeah, I feel like that's the
15 took
case.
a while to get to PC, if I remember right? Because it was exclusive on Xbox, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was a PS4 exclusive, wasn't it?
Was it a PS4? I thought it was Xbox. It could very well be a PS4. I thought for some reason that it was the reverse.
I know,
because for a while
7 Remake was.
Microsoft had Final Fantasy for at least 13. I think it was 13 with Lightning. That awful game. They probably shouldn't have bought in then. They should have bought in a little frickin' earlier. Way to go, Microsoft. But it's since redeemed itself since the hallway simulator game has been
Hey, listen,
played.
there have been some great hallway simulators. Like Knights of the Old Republic is definitely a hallway simulator, but it's a great game.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 13 not on that list of good hallway simulator games.
Right.
15 did not have an exclusivity deal, apparently.
Oh, I thought it
just
did.
took another year and a half to get to Windows from console.
Yeah. Okay.
So no exclusivity there.
It just took forever to port it. But they did it right. I mean, they clearly did it right. It's funny that Microsoft had it and they still couldn't. They still didn't port it.
Before we dive too heavily into 16, what I saw from 16 today, because I only watched your stream today, I didn't watch it yesterday. I saw some pretty cool stuff. I saw some cool stuff that made me want to actually go give 15 a shot finally, because it's been sitting on my shelf for years and I haven't started it up yet. So I finally fired it up. Still had to wait on some installation, even though it had been installed on my PS4 for I don't know how long now. I don't know why that was. But the combat looks very similar to what I experienced at the beginning of 15. However, I watched a particular boss fight with you today that looked very Kingdom Hearts to me.
There's a little bit of that in there. I can see that. I think the combat is more centered around like remake, 7 remake a little bit. It's but it felt like, I mean, 15 was obviously the start of the action RPG. Can someone get that guy out of here? I don't need to hear his sass today.
We're not even reading that comment. If you want to know what it is, you can come. You either can watch this live on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not even. If you're listening later, even giving it any kind of thought. You
can come look it up in the YouTube replay, but we're not reading that shit comment
trash.
On
that is a trash comment, and hateful as well. So he completely lost my train of thought. So the combat is a lot more, obviously, for those of you who are Final Fantasy aficionados or purists or whatever. This is not your father's Final Fantasy. It's not even my Final Fantasy. Like, to be completely honest with you, it is. I think Yoshi P had played a big portion in taking over the franchise from this point on. And he had intended it. And for those of you who don't know, Yoshi P is the guy that is running Final Fantasy 14 and has made it what it is today. His intentions were to take Final Fantasy back to magics and swords and stuff and try and eliminate any of the, the magic tech or the guns or whatever, and try and make it more of its fantasy origins.
I like that.
And then he also was making it an ARPG, an action RPG. So it's a lot more button mashing than planning. You could still plan your attacks, you just have to do it a lot quicker than you do in a turn-based style game. I'm also under the impression, don't quote me on this is what I've been told, but the Devil May Cry team had a large portion of the action done by them. So you'll see a lot of similarities with the way the Devil May Cry action scenes go with this. Now, excuse me, with the setup, it's a lot less Devil May Cry. There are aspects about the combat in Devil May Cry in the game, but it's not like full on Devil May Cry action. It's got its own uniqueness to it that makes it more Final Fantasy and less Devil May Cry, if that makes any sense to you.
To confirm what you were saying, according to the Wikipedia article, Yoshida sought out Ryota Suzuki, a Capcom veteran who had worked on Devil May Cry, as a battle designer. Yeah.
Yep. And you can see it. You can see there's a lunge dash that you do with the sword, and it's like the exact same motion that Dante does in Devil May Cry when he does the lunge slash in the same thing. So I was like, yep, there it is. There's that Devil May Cry homage. It's like the same pose, it's the same stance, it's the same kind of action that does the stab. So I was like, okay, I can see it there. There's not a lot of like Devil May Cry has a lot of uppercut. I mean, right now, I'm not saying that that's going to change or not, but as of right now, while Devil May Cry has a lot of air juggling, you uppercut an enemy into the air, and then you do an air combo, or you keep them floating in the air by shooting them with the guns. That's kind of a synonymous with Devil May Cry action. Now, I haven't seen a lot of that in this right now. There are air juggles and there are aerial attacks, but there's not like you can't launch an enemy into the air. You can launch him back like Dragon Ball Z style, like 40 goddamn feet if you do it right. But as for this, it's still very based on, Sinistar had mentioned it when I was streaming it today, that it was a lot like he said it had a lot of FromSoft kind of attributes to the
honestly
combat.
To me it feels like a mixture, and maybe this is what Devil May Cry kind of is, but it feels very mixture of Soul Calibur and FromSoft kind of mixed together. Like it's much less punishing if you extra click like FromSoft games, but it's very locked in, and it has kind of it looks visually like Soul Calibur battles, honestly, to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the combat pacing is pretty fast, right?
It's very fast. Yes, it is.
Because that's one of the things about the FromSoft games is the combat is very like you hit a button and then you got to wait for it to happen. Unless like, except for some games with like the dodges or parries, because those have to be like perfectly timed. But the actual majority of the combat feels very, you hit a button and then you wait for the elevator to get where it's going.
Right. This is very action packed, but the benefit to this versus any FromSoft game is that it is not punishing. It is not as punishing. If you take like 2 or 3 hits, you're fine. You're still just getting your feet underneath you and you're good to go. When you heal with your potions, because there's a quick button that allows you to use your potions, your high potions and your regular potions. When you get hit, and it'll heal you a lot more than it will be, but the thing that makes the Souls games so much harder is that you take 2 hits and you're done, no matter how much goddamn life you have. Like it is punishing, absolutely brutal, and you can't think fast enough and you can't move fast enough if you get caught up in something.
And healing in the FromSoft games is a very slow proposition. Right?
Yeah, they don't iframe your slows or your drinks. If you're drinking from your Estus or your potion or whatever, and you get hit, you're fucked. Like you can't do anything about it. Now this one, this one has a lot of speed to it. I'm sorry about the coughing, guys. I apologize. The battle speed's up there, but it's kind of how the combat feels. And I was talking about this before when we talked about Shinobi for PlayStation 2. I love games that make me feel like a badass. In this game, like when you start out, it's very cut and dry. It's very plain Jane, vanilla yogurt kind of game, which I love vanilla yogurt, but that's besides that. it takes a while for you to get more skills and more attributes and more things. And every time I think this is as good as it's going to get, which is fine because it's awesome. I'm not mad at it. It always steps it up a notch. And something else happens and I'm like, oh, this got way fucking cooler. Like this got way more badass. Now I can do all this cool stuff. I didn't know I could do this before. Oh shit, I can do this now. Oh, I can do this now. Oh, this is cool. And I do the whole just soaking it up as we're playing the game. And everything is still very fluid and very flawless feeling. And it doesn't feel clunky and it feels smooth as hell. And when you dodge the attacks at the right time and you get to do that extra slide dash and hit, or you parry a guy, which I'm still trying to figure out how to parry in this game. But when you do, it's so cool feeling. It's just been a lot of fun. Now, one of the drawbacks to streaming it on top of that, it is extremely story heavy. It's an RPG. It's Final Fantasy. It's gonna be story heavy. It is what it is. There's a lot of video and a lot of movie, and Jake will like this because we constantly joke about lore all the time. There is an active lore button in the game on your PS5 controller. So if you press the middle big button right here at any point in the game, if you hold it down, it'll load up and it will have lore available for you to read about what is going on. And as the game continues to play, it updates that lore. If you meet a new character, it updates it for you to go and read. If you find out something else about a character that's already been in your party, it'll extend more information that you're learning about that person. And it's all excuse me, it's like there's like 5 or 6 things on the screen. So it's not like a goddamn Bible of shit. It's just a couple pieces of hot information about the location you're at, the people you're running around with, someone you're looking for, and what you know about it so far. And it updates and it keeps doing it. I think this is an amazing addition to any RPG that has a lot of characters. You don't get lost like Game of Thrones style get lost. You can just stop at any point and read the lore, and it's short. It's little snippets. It's not like you got to read a whole book and then a quote from like the game and then like however long it's been in there. It's all right there in front of you and nice little like tiny chunks of information that continues to update. So you know who everybody is. So there's never a time when you're like, who the hell is that person? Like, where did this guy come from? He's been on my team for 20 minutes. I didn't even notice him there. Who is this guy? Where are these people coming from? Why am I doing this? Why am I going this way? It's all right there. And it makes sense. And the characters are freaking cool. They really are. Clive, the main character, Clive Rosenfield, is a cool dude. He's not annoying. He doesn't have daddy issues. His hair is normal. I mean, it's all the things that people complain about, right? In a game. He's very cool. He's just seeking revenge. I'm not going to get any spoilers because that's not what we're here to do, but he's just out to get revenge on something, right? And then you meet Sid, which every Final Fantasy has a Sid in it outside of one. And he's been running with me for a while, and you get to learn about that guy. And that guy is actually voiced by somebody who did voice acting in both Diablo 4 and he was in Game of Thrones.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's been in a ton of stuff, and his voice is very like recognizable, like it's super notable.
Yeah.
And his character is awesome too. Like all the people that I've gone up against or I have talked to or been in a crew with has been like, these guys are cool. Ralph Ineson. Incredibly well acted, incredibly well played. Everything is so cool about this game so far. I'm only a couple hours in, but I am safe to say that this would be my selection for game of the year right now with what I have done up to this point. Yes, it is. It's been that epic to play this game. This game is all about epic.
Elden Ring isn't going to make it again this year?
No, it's like the presidency. You can only go for so long with game of the year. Although the DLC's coming out, I wonder if that allows for another opening for Game of the Year if
I
there's DLC.
I thought this year Elden Ring's descriptions of weapons and armor was going to be Game of the Year.
Only from certain areas and biomes of Elden Ring. So this year's biome is the poison swamp.
Oh, poison swamps. They win.
Yes,
Fantastic.
they always win.
So I before we veer off of the concepts of combat and everything in the game, I do have something else I want to get to, but we'll spoil one little thing, and we won't spoil any story details about it. Just a particular fight where it was icon versus icon, and I know many of you are probably like, "What the hell's an icon?" An icon is a summon, a call, an eidolon, whatever you might know them as from previous games. They are Shiva, Ifrit, Ramu, Bahamut, Odin, all those, right? The big summon monster creatures.
Right.
And there's a fight with Garuda and Ifrit.
Yes.
And firstly, that was super cool, I thought. It was funny because I saw Sinistar being like, this is weird. I was like, this is cool as hell.
This is cool. All my expressions were legit today. I had 12-year-old mouth agape like expressions today when that fight came in. When we did that today, I was like, I don't want to stop. Like I had to stop because I had responsibilities as an adult to go and deal with. But I would have easily thrown those to the curb to keep on playing this goddamn game.
My mind didn't go where yours went because I think you mentioned Power Rangers.
Yeah, I
don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember that game from the arcade and Super Nintendo, King of the Monsters.
Yes.
Yep.
That's exactly where my mind went. Was King of the Monsters.
Well,
two gargantuan beasts destroying the area around them while they fight.
Well, at one point, I think I said it's Chard Monk versus Mothra.
Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, you did.
I was also thinking
it was
very
Godzilla
kaiju
too, battle, right?
It was very kaiju,
Not quite on that scale, but it was still
like
big.
It's Pacific Rim.
Because before you even do that, you're fighting this I don't know how I feel about the moment because like before that, you're a human fighting a gargantuan beast, and it's like that feels super freaking epic on the scale of like I'm a person fighting this massive monster.
Right.
But then you get to be a massive monster, so like the scale of the previous battle is kind of like destroyed by that.
Right.
Where like that seems like the more epic moment, but the fact that you get to run around as Ifrit and do the things like that was also super cool, right? So it's this weird I feel like those. I don't think they could have done it any other way than the back-to-back the way they did. But it felt like it sort of minimized the previous battle's epic levels.
Right. It's good. It's not a spoiler because the game basically starts out with an icon versus icon battle. Like the whole game starts out with It's kind of the opening scene is you and another icon. And again, I'll let whoever has played it knows it. They know what's up. But it's you and another icon going at it, and you don't know why. And as the game progresses, that fight comes back, and you do it again, and you're like, oh. These are these people. This is why this is happening. Okay, that makes sense. It is nowhere to scale to the fight that you saw today with Garuda. It's still cool as hell. But when I told you that I was like, this game can't get any more epic than it's gotten to, and it one-ups me every single time I start thinking that, going, well, all right, this is what it's going to be like the rest of the game. This is basically what I'm anticipating it being the rest of the time, and I'm totally cool with that. They go and say, nope, we're going to give it we're going to give it 2 scoops of advanced GG, and we're going to throw it back at you, and you're going to be like, oh my God, this got way more epic than I had anticipated it being. And the story is carrying itself beautifully. I am absolutely in love with the story that we played with. There's a lot of really cool secrets and a lot of really cool stuff in it that I feel like it instead of just being like some story with a lot of combat, everything is married together. Like I'm trying to keep it on the combat vein since we're talking about that right now, but to keep it that way, you're like you know, like you're like, I got into a fight and now I got 4 hours of fucking story and cutscene I gotta watch. Okay, whatever. Now I'm ready for more fights. But this is like, oh shit, okay, this cutscene's gonna explain what's going on, and then it goes into another fight, and then it comes back out and it explains more of what's going on in the cutscene, and they all are very well married together. It's there's not been a point where I've been watching it being like, God, I wish these cutscenes would be over. It's not like Star Ocean for me, where it's like,
what
fucking,
I saw,
okay, move on. I'm ready for the next shit, right?
And it seemed like they actually might have purposefully put in moments to break the monotony of too much cutscene, right?
Yeah.
Like that was, I want to play Metal Gear Solid's whole franchise because I want to see what the big deal is with Metal Gear Solid 4, where they're basically like, you know, you get a half hour of gameplay and an hour and a half of cutscene, and the cutscenes are so long.
What?
Yeah, right.
The cutscenes are so long that you get save points between the cutscenes because you have to come back and finish it up later because it's so long, right? 16 seems to like purposefully avoid that by, you know, I saw a moment earlier where you had a cutscene and then you had a long wandering this player area and fighting things, and then another cutscene, and then some dude you end up chasing at the end of that cutscene. And so it lets you actually control the chase. And it's just short. It's not long. From an outside perspective, it feels like, okay, why is that there? It's to give the player a little break and absorb all what they just were given before they're immediately given another cutscene at the end of the chase. And then after that cutscene, you're in a fight. Like it feels like they purposely break the flow back and forth to sort of keep the player engaged, because too much story, especially in a video game, it can get to be a lot. It can get to be too much. And I actually have that problem sometimes with games. I'm playing through Tears of the Kingdom right now. Another Game of the Year contender, by the way. If I could play 16, I might agree with you, but since it's on PS5, fuck it. Tears of the Kingdom for me right now. But Tears of the Kingdom, there's a lot of points where, you know, I kind of get the gist of the conversation already. I want to be over with it, right? So I'm like skipping through the conversation. It's less so when it's voice acted, but when it's just a bunch of dialogue boxes and you're only telling me like two important things, it's like, all right, I'm over this. But like that can be the case when watching too many cutscenes in a long RPG. It's like, all right, I'm over this. I just want to be done with this. Give me the Cliff's Notes already. And this is like, here, have a couple minutes of cutscenes, go do a thing, have a couple more minutes of cutscenes, go kill some guys, have a couple more minutes of cutscenes. So like it's peppered through kind of well, I feel like. But again, that's what I saw from watching you for about an hour live and then jumping back and forth through for another hour after you were not live. So I don't know if Sinistar has a different perspective on that.
No, I mean it, and maybe it's because I wasn't playing it myself, and maybe I also, you know, had to split some time during work and stuff, but it really felt like today, every time I looked over, it was almost like cutscene after cutscene, and I was like, okay, are we dealing with another Tomb Raider? Where it's like 10 minutes of gameplay, 15 minutes of cutscene, okay, 10 minutes of gameplay, 15 more minutes of cutscene. So, I mean, but there is a very different experience watching it versus playing it, right? Like, I know for a fact that, like, when you play it, you also have that, like, that whole inverse time dilation where, like, time actually, it's like an hour has happened, but it feels like 5 minutes to you, right? Like,
right.
Where your, you know, your viewer audience or, you know, people watching it get that full hour experience, right? So, but like I said, it's I have enjoyed watching it. I do have some issues with what I've seen of the game, but honestly, Final Fantasy is not the only player in the space that I have the issues with, right? Like, it actually seems like these are kind of modern tropes that are normalized now, and, you know, anyway.
Right. They got to figure out a way to do the haptic senses.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
Well,
not go too deep into the problem, but
I don't think we should get into spoilers on the story.
No.
If we touch on a few minor moments from the first, because you're what, 10 hours deep? which
yeah,
is not.
I'm probably 2 or 3 hours deep. Yeah, I'm not that far
Oh,
into it.
okay.
I think
Yeah,
it's like a 50+ hour game too, so we still got
yeah.
a lot
So
of
even if
time.
we spoil anything, it's not going to be anything major because
No, I
it's
think the
early
only
on.
thing that
But
I think we could spoil is how epic a lot of these a lot of these combat scenes have been.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty standard, and it's very hallway simulator in this sense, where they make it feel like it's open world, but it's really not. It's really still very point A to point B. You're
Yeah.
going to where you go. You can explore the area around you if you want to, but there's not like
It
not to my
doesn't
knowledge, there's not like a secret weapon or some kind of special thing hidden away.
so far it doesn't seem to have the issues that I experience with open world games where it's like either I do the main quest or I have to wander and look for like weird side
Right.
quests that, you know,
Right.
hey, look, I have a fetch quest, or I have an escort quest, right? Like all of the standard tropes that we see for
Right.
like, I haven't seen that in this game yet.
there's
Right.
definitely a sweet spot in open world games to where like, or just in modern games in general, I think, where, you know, it feels open, but it also feels linear. So you're not able to get too far away from the main quest.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
That definitely
I
is
mean,
what that feels like.
it's not a
I'm
it's-
sure it varies a little from person to person, but
Yeah.
I still think there's generally a sweet spot for that, right?
Yeah, we're not
Right.
talking on the far end, which is like, you know, the later Elder Scroll games where it's like you can die completing, like when I say die, like human die, like I spent 400 hours doing side quests and that was the end of my life, kind of thing where
Right.
which I love that about the Elder Scrolls games, but that's expected when I go in. I don't think people would expect a Final Fantasy game to basically be like, okay, here's 20 hours of story, which let's talk Skyrim, 12 to 20 hours of story and 400 hours of side quests. That's not how Final Fantasy was.
But
No.
So like, I know there's always the term of hallway simulator, right? What Final Hallway 13 was the meme at the time.
Or KOTOR.
And I will say Final Fantasy 13 was particularly bad about being the hallway. But that's
the game
because
really
they
opens
didn't
up
try to
after
hide
250 hours.
Yeah, well they didn't try to hide that it was a hallway. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Final
Right.
Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 6, like Final Fantasy 7, all these games that we love from the past, they're very linear games, right?
Even
They don't become open until late game. 13
Right.
did the same thing, but at least they mask it in the earlier entries
Yeah.
where you're going through a dungeon. Well, it overlaps. There's a couple of alternate branches, to find treasures or secrets or whatever. But generally, you got to go through this one path to get through the dungeon.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next location and the next location, so forth. 13 was really bad about that, where it was like, look, you can see the whole hallway from where you
can
start
see
to the
the
next
end
loading
from the
point.
start. Right.
And
there's no
alternate
side shots.
branches,
It's all right in front of you.
the branches are like 12 feet deep, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's the problem that 13 had. Even Final Fantasy 12 felt fairly open pretty quickly because you could go wander out in the desert and do the bounty hunts and whatever. And I'm getting a similar feel from 15, which I just started because I was watching you play 16. I'm like, I want to experience this kind of thing, so I'll play 15.
Right.
I've not played it yet, so I did that. But it feels like it's just open enough. And I like that 16 has this sort of fast travel to get back and forth to points that are important for you. You can go back and explore stuff if you feel like you missed something. It's not a huge deal to. And this is actually something for Sinistar's point where he was talking about the game feels overly inflated.
Yeah. Giving
you fast travel points drastically reduces that overinflated aspect, I think.
Absolutely. For me, it's I think the thing that would probably, if I were playing it, would aggravate me the most. I've been recently playing Forza 5. But I've been recently playing Forza 5 where it's like you go into a menu and it's like click and hold this thing because, apparently that's the new norm. And you're seeing it in 16. Now, I'm not saying that they specifically did that to add time to the game, but to me, I don't know. Maybe people get more aggravated than I do when they accidentally sell the thing that they weren't supposed to sell.
Oh, you kidding me?
Right?
You know how many things I've sold accidentally, and I've been like, "Damn it, I needed that."
I have a point of defense for this in the
Okay.
fact that I would agree with you if it weren't for the fact that you could set a number of items you want to purchase or sell and then
Right.
hold that one time to get rid of or purchase all of those.
I
So I think in this case, it's actually a quality of life issue and not a time consumption issue.
Sure, but it
Agreed.
does it in every interface, like the fast travel interface, like the selecting your skills interface. Final Fantasy, it seems like every menu click is a click and hold. Every single one.
Okay. How long are the loading times in 16? I got to ask.
They're pretty
they-
quick. Honestly, I
they're
think a
pretty
lot of them,
Yeah.
the loading scenes are masked by a lot of the cut scenes. I feel like
No,
there's
I mean, like, when you
quietly
fast
loading
travel,
stuff into
I
the next
didn't-
area. Oh no, when you
I
fast
didn't pay
travel, we
attention
were
to the
in
fast
and out.
travel loading
No,
times.
we were
Okay.
in and out. There
Yeah.
was not.
So
it
then,
was
I
quick.
don't
It
know.
was super fast.
I honestly
Because I
think
can tell you right now, in Tears of the Kingdom,
Mhm.
using fast travel, oh, it's painful when I accidentally go to the wrong location because it's
Okay.
like, oh, you wanted to go
But-
here? Okay, animate the thing.
but remember
Loading time.
but
Oh,
I love
remember
here,
the Zelda's
here.
logo.
I
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
the wrong spot.
But
Do it again.
remember that a Switch is basically like cartridges and the storage on a Switch is basically SD, not SSD, basically SD, right?
I
And
get
so,
that, but I mean, it's the fact that the little "Are you sure?" instead of like double making sure that you want it, this is your "Are you sure?" Right?
I get it,
and
but
I
it
approve
feels
of
like
that.
it feels like they basically built the menu system and the designer or developer who built the menu system was like, I don't want to have some that you just tap and some that you just hold. I'm just going to make you hold them all.
Is that the case
Mm.
though? Like when you want to go to your equipment and stuff, does it have that same hold?
When you're selling stuff, mostly. Like
But when
look-
you
No,
like when
but
you
like in your
select
personal menu when you want to
no, when you,
things.
I think when you
Okay,
equip
so
something,
yeah.
it's instantaneous.
but when you
Then
like
I'm
select
fine with
click
that.
on it, and it has.
but when you select skill, like it's not just the set. Like I literally watched it happen.
Okay,
I
so
get
it's
it.
it's when you're about to spend or or give up
Sure.
something that
But we
you
used.
is a finite resource,
I
right?
feel like
Right.
it
I'm
was
okay
an
with that.
I feel like it was an issue that didn't need to be fixed because I've been playing video games for 40 years and I
But-
never felt like going, oh shit, well, that ruined it for me. No, it was, oh shit, move along. Like,
I
Well,
have.
you-
I have. I've accidentally sold stuff that was like one of a kind item in the game that you can't get back.
okay,
right?
so here's the
And then it's
solution.
like, well, now I have been playing for 2 hours and I haven't saved since I started.
Here's the
Right.
solution.
This sucks.
Here's the
Yeah.
solution. Make it so you can buy it back at an increased price to suffer for your mistake, which lots of games do.
Well, and some games, and this is another solution. Some games are like, I didn't mean to sell that. I'd like to buy it back.
Sure.
And you
Right.
just get the money
Sure.
back.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you figure it's just like, this is the group of transactions that are happening. So if you didn't mean to sell it, you didn't accidentally sell it, you get to keep it and keep your money the way
Right.
it was, right?
I
I feel like that is the better way, maybe.
yeah,
but-
to me it just feels like an issue that didn't need to be solved. Like in my
I
I think it's
40
okay.
heartily disagree.
in my 40 years of gaming, I have never been so angry at something that like cuz yeah, you know
Well,
what?
I have.
I in the early days of playing RPGs where you were like re-rolling your stats and re-rolling your stats and re-rolling your stats at the beginning to try to get the best stats, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, click, oh fuck, click, oh fuck. You like, you know, like,
Right.
and then you just
Listen,
deal with it and move on.
I didn't learn patience very quickly. Obviously, I still don't have any. So I'd be at a store and I'd just be like, all right, oh fuck, dude,
Uh-huh.
like I got
Yeah.
rid of the best sword and you can't buy it back. It's gone and you can't get it
Yeah.
again. So I'm
See-
like, you know what would be real nice? Like a slow sell. That'd be really nice. And they
Okay.
heard my
And-
cries.
But I
And
also
maybe they felt like this was a more nuanced and oh god, what was the word I was going to use? Shit, I forgot. But
Elegant?
basically a less elegant, a more elegant solution to the buyback, right?
okay, and you know what? that's cool, but now I'm going to request devs. All the devs that listen to us, I know that there's like all of them listen to us.
Ton of them.
But I'm going to say, hey, devs, if you introduce a feature that makes me have to click and hold more than a couple times in a game, give me an accessibility option to turn it off at my peril. Like, you know, give me the option to say insta-sell instead of click and hold sell. Like, you know.
I mean, that's fair.
I never thought we would get into an argument about holding a button to do an action.
I think it's actions for action's sake. I get tired of that crap. That's like project managers' wet dreams are the people that come up with these things.
Wow.
Okay, so while I think Sinistar is wrong on this point, I will agree with Sinistar. I think Chard is wrong on the door point.
Oh, Jesus.
Opening a door, it should just be press X.
Yeah.
There's an issue in this game where, and I get it sometimes, like when you had that moment with Sid and Clive picking up the gate. Okay, this is a more intricate thing. It takes two people. Yeah. I can forgive the odd quick time event where it's like, okay, time your press of R2 or whatever, right? And then whoop, whoop, it goes up a little. But for just a door that Clive is just going to push open?
Yes.
Why do you have to time your R2 button? Why can't you just
Because you have haptic senses in the goddamn controller and they want to show them off.
We have created a solution to a problem that didn't exist. We created a solution. Hey, we have this cool fancy. We have this cool. We have this cool.
What are you talking about?
You know what? Sony
it makes the fucking trigger go. That's what she said. Hard. It makes the trigger hard to push down.
Sony learned from Nintendo in the wrong way. Nintendo innovates. Sony's like, we got a controller. We got to show it off. Make some random. You know what? Figure out a better way. Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever, where the trigger actually has a response. Perfect.
Yeah.
A freaking door. A freaking door.
And okay,
a freaking door.
Let me counter argue your point, Chard. They make the button harder to press. Okay, how many doors are you pushing open that are like 40-pound doors with your index finger?
You have not been to my house. You don't know how heavy my doors are. Okay,
I have.
Because the doors here are
how
like
much work.
4
how
ounces.
much work this bitch gets. All right.
I have been to your house.
I fucking walk around my house and I push everything with one fucking finger,
and he's
so
like,
I can feel the haptics. Yeah, and I fucking drill it in there.
Not every door in the game needs to give you that feeling of like two heavy doors at the gas station.
Or like pushing a door when there's like a vacuum on the other side or whatever. Where you're like, actually, I want that feature. Okay, I want that.
You don't have to feel an industrial freezer door every time you open for a quick time event.
I want that feature where the haptic responds like my freezer that has like the vacuum on the other
suction?
side. So all of a sudden you're like pull, and then all of a sudden the trigger just like falls out from underneath your finger. If they did that, I'd be in.
Click.
I will say this because it is silly. It is a dumb thing. If they did it to every door, it would make sense. But since they do it to select doors, which I don't understand what the criteria is between a heavy door and a regular door and why that should get the quick time event versus just going through a regular door. That doesn't make sense to me. So I could definitely side with your guys' argument about it. If it made every door that way, then it would be like, okay, so all the doors are fucking heavy. Or like you said, if it's like a 2-person, they both got to lift something heavy, or it's like a big double door and you're pushing the big double door open like by yourself or something, then that would make sense. But literally like, I gotta take a piss. This door's heavy.
Yeah. How many games have like either push or pull a rock or a stone or something, right? Do that. Make it so your character has to pull a stone and you have to pull the trigger and you feel the stone. Like, that makes sense. But a door.
I mean,
okay, I want to address a couple of things here because November is talking about a couple things in chat.
Yeah.
And they're worth mentioning. This was actually November says he'd understand if it were a launch title for the PS5, but we're well into the PS5's life cycle as far as the haptic feedback on the trigger buttons. I agree with that because I was thinking it very much reminded me of early Switch titles that made heavy use of the HD rumble. You don't see a whole lot of HD rumble on the Switch anymore. Nobody gives a rat's ass now, right?
Right.
The tech is still in my Joy-Con, but the games don't make use of it at all. Not even Nintendo. Like it used to be like there were launch titles for the Switch. Blaster Master, right? Yeah. Blaster Master Zero. It's this 16-bit style old school NES remake platformer, right? You fall in the water and it feels like the controller just hit it splashed in water, right?
Yeah.
Super cool. Tears of the Kingdom doesn't care. It's like, no, we're not doing any of that. This is our biggest game to date on the Switch. We're not doing any of that. Like, so I agree with that. But also November mentions the loading screen idea. Like it's treated as a loading screen to, that extra give, right?
Yeah, like
I would agree
Resident
with
Evil.
that. I would agree with that if it weren't for the fact that once the door's open, it's open.
Right.
It doesn't close back up.
It's
not a loading. Okay. We're not looking like Resident Evil where you hit the button and then you get the black.
It's a heavy door.
Just a door
just
that
let
opens,
it be a heavy fucking door,
and then you're zooming.
Let it live its life,
and then you're in the
as a heavy door.
Yeah.
But it did remind me of Resident Evil 1 with those, that long ass loading screen with the door opening and closing. Yeah. And I thought about that. Like, I was like, I wonder if that's a loading screen, but then the doors are still open and you can see on the other side and it's not a problem. So I was like, okay, it's probably not a loading screen then.
No, I do want to,
this is a creative choice now.
I do want to, yeah, like I said, it's a product manager's wet dream. Like this, it'd be cool. It'd be cool. No, it wouldn't be cool. Put the
haters.
Put the marker down and walk away from the whiteboard. It's not cool. Anyway,
but it is cool.
No, there's a lot about 16 that I think looks super cool, and I want to play it.
And I want to clear the air here. I think that there's a lot of value for QuickTime events. There is a lot of value. One of my favorite games, Parappa the Rapper, is all QuickTime events, right? I mean,
well, I would like to. Resident Evil 5, right? I've been playing Resident Evil 5 with a friend of mine. I don't know when was the last. Have you guys ever played it?
No,
I have not played 5.
Okay,
I have it. I played
5 when it first came out on the Xbox 360 with my brother. We played 2-player, and there's a lot of moments in that game that were QuickTime events.
Okay,
and during combat, it's like hit these 2 buttons to dodge, right? Like that's a regular thing. But it's during combat. That's fine. You get the warning, so you don't take the big hit.
Yeah,
but it's like, maybe a second if that.
Slow down the time for a second.
During cutscenes, no, it doesn't even slow down time for a second. You just get a second warning of like, dodge.
Okay.
This is going to happen, dodge. And if you don't, you take a massive amount of damage or die depending on the fight. But then there were cutscenes. Almost every cutscene had QuickTime events.
Okay.
Now I'm playing this game again with a friend of mine, and we're playing through, and he mentions, man, these cutscenes feel like they should have had QuickTime events. And I'm like, I feel like they did. Because it's been like 10 years, more than 10 years since I played it, because I think it came out in 2009. So I'm like, I feel like these were QuickTime events.
Did they remove them for multiplayer?
They did an update like 8 years after the game was released on PC to get rid of the QuickTime events. And
just
all
altogether.
Get rid of them, you can turn them off, but the option now is defaulted off. So you don't get the QuickTime events unless you opt into them. So even Capcom was like, all right, there was too much. And it was 8 years later. They had no need to do this. Nobody cared anymore.
No. When I was clearing the air about QuickTime events, when I say there's value to QuickTime events, I like a well-placed QuickTime event has a lot of value. I think that they do, like when in the Batman games, in the Arkham games, there are like, hey, this guy's attacking you. You can hit your Y button to like block it or counter or whatever. And that makes you actually feel powerful. And it's a QuickTime event, right? Like if a guy's swinging a bat at me and I can like hit a button as a QuickTime event, take the bat away and beat him on the head. Cool. I'm in. Let's go. I
mean, there's a lot of there's actual QuickTime events in the battle scenes too.
And they're great.
And,
they're great.
where you can either protect or you can attack, and it does some cool shit if you land it on the right time. And they
I
give you
don't
like
mind
4 hours to fucking press the goddamn button.
Don't get me wrong. I'm
Like,
not like I love QuickTime events. I'm not like I hate QuickTime events. I think QuickTime
right? No, I
events,
get it.
well used, are great. They
Yeah.
help immersion instead
Yeah.
of pull you out of it.
Like I said,
When it's to the
Batman.
level of like Shenmue was too much.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if you guys ever played Shenmue,
No.
but it was like you would have entire cutscenes, like 3-4 minutes long, that it's just QTE after QTE after QTE, and if you mess it up, you got to go back to the beginning of the cutscene and do it all again.
Wait.
And it was just painful.
That's what I like about Parappa the Rapper.
That's gross.
That's different, though.
That's gross.
It's
you keep
rhythm.
calling it a QTE,
it's rhythm.
which it
it's rhythm
technically is, but it's a rhythm
QTEs.
game.
It's rhythm
that
QTEs.
they didn't know how to dress yet, because I think that came before Dance Dance Revolution.
Probably.
So this was just what eventually became Dance Dance Revolution, and that's how they dressed it. But when QuickTime events became a regular part of gameplay and sort of became leaned on as a mechanic, it's a problem.
Yeah.
When it's used sparingly to help immersion, but enough to where you remember it's a thing, that's fine.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Arkham games, their QuickTime events are built into the battle system as an interrupt for when somebody's coming at you, right? Like that, and it makes you feel powerful because you do like a cool like spin move or whatever, right? Like it makes you feel like Batman through that QuickTime event, right?
Right.
So yeah,
and that's the same thing about feeling like a badass, is because you feel like Batman when you're in that and you're in that and doing that. It's the same thing in 16 where you're fighting those fights and you're like fucking you hit the QuickTime event, it pauses and the enemy's gonna do some crazy shit and you've like it freezes on your face all fucking snarly and then it says like you either defend or you attack, and whatever move you like duck out of the way real cool, then you come back and stab him in the face or some shit. It's all just a song and dance that is just beautiful to watch.
I thought that the battle QuickTime events in Final Fantasy 16 did look, they looked like a something that brought you in. It did look like that to me. Doors, give me a fucking click of the X button and we're good. Let's move on.
Well. And like most Final Fantasy games, we'll head back into the combat and kind of the look and the feel of the game. It is absolutely as epic as you would expect any kind of Square Final Fantasy game would look. Like it's over the top. Everything, the creatures are just stupid beautiful, and you're like, does it really need all those horns? But it does need all those horns because it's Ifrit and it has 20 fucking horns. Or Garuda has like 1,800 goddamn limbs, and you're like, I don't remember her being any kind of spider or monkey type creature, but she has a lot of fucking hands that are grabbing at me right now, and I don't fucking know why. And the evolution of the characters in the fights, like I said, they start so like they feel, I don't want to say basic because that's not the right way to say it, but they feel very, I'm going in and smashing buttons and I'm just going to kick the shit out of some people. Oh, I'm going to get hurt a few times, but then I'm going to bounce back. That's another thing I need to cover after this. But the more you like, the more fighting you do, the more powerful the enemies get. And then you do like a whole nother fight scene or a whole nother fight with a different creature with more powerful stuff. And you just feel like a badass because you keep on going at it. And they're getting stronger and you're staying the same. And you're just like the whole Sid thing that you were talking about, Sinistar, where he was like, move out of the way. And then he gets his ass kicked. And then you go in and you take care of business, you know? So it's kind of cool to see like the characters have all these superpowers, but you who are just fairly mild mannered, to be honest, you're not, but you kind of feel that way when you're playing it. You're going in and kicking some teeth in. And there's another accessibility thing. The game gives you
I wouldn't say mild mannered. I would say unassuming.
Unassuming. I could go with unassuming. The accessibility, there's a couple medallions that you get to start out the game. And they say you could use these if you want to. If the game is too difficult for you, there's like a healing medallion that when your hit points get low, it'll heal you or it'll do a potion so you don't have to. It's automatic. There's some stuff that helps your dodging better, so it'll freeze time, like right when you're going to get hit, so you can learn how to dodge or parry out of the way in the right time. And things like that. Like it comes with the game. You don't buy them. They're already on your character when you start. So you can equip them and use them if you'd like to, But if you don't and you want there to be a challenge, then you don't equip and you don't use them. Also, if you die in a fight, instead of having to start all the way at the beginning of the fight, it kind of leaves you at a checkpoint of the fight where things were getting kind of intense. Now it's not, God, this cough is terrible. I'm sorry. It's not without a little fault, because if you die and you come back, it'll bring you back to the portion of the fight, but you're also fully healed and have all your potions. So if you ran out of everything and you died,
just die.
You could come back. Yeah, you could come back with your full health and all of your equipment or all your items that were keeping you alive full again and fight the fight. So there's a lot of accessibility to this game. There's a ton of it. On
top of Soul Calibur, Devil May Cry, FromSoft, it's also Quake/Unreal, because you just respawn with full health.
Basically. But you don't have to rest at a campfire and bring everything back. So that's also helpful. But yeah, this game is beautiful. Even if just to watch, it's been fun just to watch. Like, I've been trying not to watch other people play it because I don't want any spoilers for myself. But if you do have a PS5,
I'm trying to only show like parts that are not going to be spoilery when I've been running the video here.
But you could see the epicness in just the basic battles. Like, you could see how cool the filigree and the light flashes. It's like fucking J.J. Abrams is directing this goddamn game with all the fucking lens flares that you get on this stupid game.
Okay, that's a good point to address the idea that the story in this feels a lot different from what Final Fantasy usually does.
Yeah.
And the storytelling I saw, it felt a lot like, Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time, right? It's very, fantasy-driven medieval world.
Yeah.
But then the storytelling, it feels on par with those TV shows, right? Like it jumps back and forth to other characters and lets you see snippets of story and then pulls you back to your point in the game. And so it drives the story along in a well-paced manner that feels almost like cinematic television. Which is really cool. I appreciate that.
Interactive cinematic television, yes.
And the acting feels like it's all good. Like, you don't get any Albert Wesker style actors in this that are cheesing it up, right? At least not that I've seen.
Right. No, everybody, all the characters are cool, and everybody seems pretty fleshed out and fairly well rounded. There's nothing about I've been reading a bunch of like Twitters and some YouTube videos about like reviews and whatnot of this game before I started firing it up myself. And everybody that said anything positive about any of the characters that I've ran into, I second their notion about it. They all are very well done. I can't imagine there ever being a point, unless one of these characters just goes fucking left field on you really quick and you don't expect it. I can't see anybody complaining about a single character that I've run into this far. Like, at all. Even the antagonists that you're fighting, you're like, you kind of feel for them a little bit. Like, in a certain way, you kind of feel, instead of like, you're the bad guy, you deserve it. You're kind of like,
the moment I saw in your stream today, and I'm not going to spoil what happened, but one of the people in your chat was like, this is a really sad moment. And you're like, nah, not really. But it kind of was, if you view it from their perspective.
Yeah.
It's the terribly sad moment.
That's the thing. The more it got into it, the worse I felt, because they were explaining it more, and there was a background in there that they didn't show you at first, because it's like, this person's a bitch. And then it turns out that they're just doing their thing, and they're like, fuck, now I feel like an asshole.
So it's really cool that they actually give you driving reasons behind what the characters are doing, instead of just like, look, Kefka's a bad guy and he's an asshole and you don't like him, right? Kefka is still one of the worst villains in Final Fantasy, but like, you see these new recent Disney movies that are based on the villains, like Maleficent, Cruella. You can at least understand how they got to how they are. There's nothing you can do for Kefka to do that, right? But the antagonists in 16, they do that for, and you get it. You understand it. They're not vile human beings for vile human beings' sake. They're not just, I want to watch the world burn because
wait, they're
Right.
They have more than one dimension.
They're multi-dimensional. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and I appreciate that. I like the digging into the characters' stories and understanding their motivations and sort of redeeming the irredeemable a little bit. It's an appreciated storytelling tactic, and I don't think it gets used enough. And so I like that Final Fantasy went that extra mile.
Right. You're getting both sides
like
of the coin instead of right. You're like, I'm just gonna go fight the bad. I'm just gonna go beat up the big bad. That's what we're doing here. We're going in. Golbez is possessed. He's killing everybody. We're gonna go beat the big bad. Oh, and then he's possessed by the god of hatred, who hates everything.
Yeah,
for no reason other than just because he's hatred.
It was always cop out redemption earlier on, right? If there was redemption for a villain, it was usually cop out redemption. Like in 4, like you said, Golbez was possessed. It wasn't Golbez. It was
Zeromus.
Desires that he felt that allowed Zeromus to take control of him. In Final Fantasy VI, Kefka was just a monster.
Right.
There was nothing other
but he
than
owned up
I
to
want
it.
me, right?
Right.
Like, that's all he wanted was stuff for him. And so he was not redeemable. He was just an asshole.
Right.
In 7, you do get little points of how you can understand how Sephiroth got where he was, but it wasn't enough to be able to like understand him. It was not.
You still hated him.
What's the term I'm looking for? It was not. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
It's not understandable. There's another term I'm looking for. Relatable.
There it is.
Yeah. Sephiroth was not relatable. The antagonists I've seen so far in 16, at least they're relatable.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
you can see how they got
10
to where they are.
Even 10 kind of touches on like Jet's an asshole, but he did discover himself. And now you got to fight him because he is the big bad, but not because he's an asshole. It's because of what he had to do to keep the whole sin thing going and the summoners and all that shit. But when you fight him at the end, you're obviously Titus is pissed because he's got daddy issues. We know that's established. But he's not like a dick when you're fighting him. He's like, come at me and take me out. You have to take me out. I am going to fight you, but you have to do this to end this whole thing. So I think like it took 10 Final Fantasies to get to a boss that kind of had maybe a little bit of that. Okay, I can kind of see that side of it. And I think that's why I like 10 so much.
9 didn't even have that. I think there was possession.
9 was
and
like
then there was
crystal
boss. Random
like,
thing entirely, right? Like,
you're like, what the fuck is this bad guy? Where did he come from? They never discussed this dude. He just was like, hey, I'm here to kill you guys. You're like, oh, okay, have a seat there. We'll be with you in a minute. I mean, even 15. When you play 15, that one is a lot like, in a sense, without spoilers, you'll get a lot of the sensing of that too. Of this whole thing, because when you fight the big bad in that one too, you're kind of like, should I? Like, you're kind of torn. It still puts enough like aggression into you that you're like, I'm gonna kick this dude's ass, but you're still kind of like, he's got a point there, like a little bit. So I do like that multifaceted enemies that we're running into.
I don't want to derail the conversation that we're having about 16, but 15. Like, I'm kind of wondering how we're going to get to a point with a lot of big craziness, because it starts off as like dudes on a road trip. What?
Right.
How do you get from dudes on a road trip
to pretty chill to world domination? That's a big jump.
Like,
but it gets there. It does get there.
In 4, you've got this big grand opening of like, oh man, I'm so torn about what I just did, attacking this other city and stealing what's theirs. In 6, you've got, I just woke up from being enslaved and, now I don't have any memories.
Right.
7 is even like, join the resistance. All right.
Right.
But at least it was like, you come with us, be in the resistance. Right. It was trying to drive some sort of agency. 15 feels like there's none yet.
Right.
And 16 feels like that's kind of all it is agency.
Right.
Which is fine.
And what I really, really appreciate about 16 right now is it's dark. It is dark. Like the story and the characters and everything
And
that's
the
going on,
visuals.
and the
Can't see half the
visuals.
things.
Well, yeah, I mean it's visually dark, but it's also storytellingly dark. Like people are dying. There's a lot of blood in this. People are getting
Yeah.
dismembered. People are saying fuck. I mean, I've
Yeah.
never in my life played a
I was
Final
surprised.
Fantasy game where the F-bomb has been dropped as much as it has been in this one, and I love it because it's very adult. There's very few things about this game that I couldn't praise about, and I'm not even halfway done with it. There's still so much to do and so much to learn. I cannot wait to see where this is going, especially after today, how we finished it. I cannot wait to see what the fuck happens next, because it's a load.
Novi,
I feel like
Novi's right. If it's dark, turn your game up.
Turn your game up, is that dark? Yeah.
I do have to say though, like the story so far, what I've seen, it feels like something that the wife would actually play with me. She's not a gamer. Like we've talked about playing The Witcher 3. I don't know if she'd have the patience for the amount of just wandering and killing things to get
Probably
the story
not.
out of it, because she
Probably
likes the show. She's like, let's play The Witcher. And I'm like, I don't know if that'll be for you. But I feel like
Right.
this one has enough story and enough interest behind the characters to where she would actually participate and actively watch while I play, or
Right.
make decisions if there are any. I don't know, but
Mhm.
and be an active participant in the game instead of just tuning it out and putting on an audiobook or something if I were to play it in a living room, right?
Right.
Well, sounds like you need to buy a PS5 and find out.
PS5 and find out, baby.
I'll get a Mister well before I get a PS5.
That's fair.
That's
And
not
you
a
know
threat.
what?
That's a promise.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that's a pretty good coverage of
Yeah.
the first 3 or 4 or 5 hours of 16, which, without heavy spoilers or ruining this for anybody who wants to try it out and is interested. But I could tell you it's well on its way for being Chardmonk's Game of the Year.
One thing I
right now
do want to go back to really quickly is, Wulff, this made you feel like you wanted to play Final Fantasy 15. Not for any reason other than watching an epic fantasy or an epic RPG again. This gives me the urge to either go back and play Witcher 3 or some Cyberpunk, just to have that epic RPG. Like, it makes me want to play an epic RPG again, right?
Yeah, and Cyberpunk had that sort of storytelling too, where it was like, it wasn't as constant, I would say, as what we're seeing in 16, but it was heavy and constantly the driving force behind what you're playing, right? Yeah, there's tons of side quests, but the side quests don't feel as important as the main story, and they're harder to get lost in Cyberpunk. Whereas like Skyrim and Elder Scrolls in general, like you can come across a side quest that feels more epic than the main story in some cases.
Going through the gates in Oblivion, I'm like, is this the end game? Like, I'm going through, and it's just a gate, right? Like, it's,
Yeah, it's just hell. Don't worry about it.
No, Cyberpunk just kind of like this. There are those moments where, it's been out for a while. Sorry, guys, spoiler. But there are those moments where you are in Keanu's character and you have like Keanu's gun and you feel like a badass.
You're being a badass. Yeah. When you're Keanu, you're Silverhand.
But that's main story.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
Like another tangent. I'm actually looking forward to Cyberpunk's DLC because I'm sure they fine-tuned the storytelling even more in that.
And it has
Idris Elba. Yeah. For all the shortcomings Cyberpunk had, I feel like the storytelling was absolutely not one of them at all.
Right.
And so I'm looking forward to the DLC to that. 16 just makes me wish I could play it.
Yeah.
But since it's a PS5 exclusive, fuck me, right? Like
you'll go find another epic RPG to play.
I mean, I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom now. I'm playing 15 with the kiddo. I got plenty of shit on my hands, right? But I'm not gonna have a problem for finding stuff to play. But like it's interesting the fact that it is exclusive, at least to the PS5 console, for a timed manner, right?
Yeah.
It's sold. It's This is kind of wild to me. It is the best-selling PS5 game to date.
Yep.
That isn't
fastest-selling
wild.
PS5
That isn't
game to
wild
date.
to me.
It
Maybe
is
this
to
game is-
me.
maybe it's wild to
because-
me because it's taken this long for a PS5 title. Okay, yeah.
Right. Like, we're how many years deep? And 5 million copies is the best-selling PS5 game.
Right.
That's
3 years in.
weird.
But
Yeah.
you have to think about this. How hard is it? How hard was it to get a PS5
Oh, sure.
for a long fucking time? So, I mean, we are deep within its life cycle, right? We're 3 years into its natural life cycle. But people like me are finally be able to get one. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like
I
the
couldn't
life
get
cycle.
one the day it came out. You know, there was no way we were going to get one, and now they're commonly. You can go to a GameStop and be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, look,
well,
there's a fucking PS5."
Maybe
Now that we're
2023
seeing-
is the life cycle, right? Like this is anyway.
Now we're seeing actual PS5 exclusives instead of PlayStation exclusives, right?
Right.
Right.
Because before we were getting, it was a PlayStation exclusive. You get it on PS4 or PS5, but fuck those who have PS4, you don't get DLCs.
Right.
You don't get the extra content. But we're not going to tell you about that at first. We'll tell you about that a year after you buy the game. Now there's a DLC coming out, and you don't get it because you didn't get the 5, even though we couldn't supply enough for you to get it easily.
So
But
go
fuck
spend
you
another
anyway.
$70 for the game plus the and the console, and now you can get the
Yeah.
DLC. Yeah.
So that I have an issue with that, but also, can you imagine how well this game would have sold if it was universally available instead of just Sony?
It would have
Instead of just PS5?
if it was if it was a PlayStation exclusive. So if it was just PS4 and PS5, not even Xbox or PC or anything, but if it was just those two, I think we would have seen double the sales that we're already seeing.
And it's at 5 million right now.
Yeah,
Like,
I would think
it's opening week.
Yeah.
It sold 5 million copies between physical and digital worldwide, as I'm to understand based on my bit of research before we started this episode.
Right.
Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch. And again, I mean, it's Nintendo, it's exclusive. There's a lot of people who get a Nintendo console and another console because, they're not the same.
Right.
Tears of the Kingdom sold 10 million.
Yeah.
That's gotta kind of grind Sony's gears a little bit.
Yeah, but everybody's got a fucking Switch. I mean,
right?
Not everybody, but how you don't go to somebody's house that's at least some kind of a gamer. There's 2 in this house, and one of them I got for free because my mom didn't want hers anymore. She got an upgraded one.
But I think
she gave me her Switch Lite.
I think that's kind of the point is if you look at the quantity of households that probably have a PS4, I would argue it's well, I mean, Sony actually has a larger market than Nintendo, I think, at the moment, last I heard. I don't remember. But either way,
I don't know.
The quantity of households that have a PS4. I have a PS4. The thing hasn't been turned on in a year, but I have a PS4, right? Like, yeah.
I have more games for PS4 than I have for Switch.
Yeah.
But the fact that the PS5 is as expensive as it is, has been gouged to hell because of scalpers, has been hard to find. Now I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, I don't care. I don't want a PS5 so much anymore. Like, it took so long for it to become readily available that my interest waned. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. So if they sold 5 million on just the PS5, I have to wonder if the executives at Squaresoft are like, at Square Enix are like, well, how much did we miss out on by not releasing to everything?
Or even just PS4 and 5. Like add just PS4 in. Like,
I think their concern might be, and this is all hearsay, this is not factor, this is just my own knowledge base. I think their concern was the Cyberpunk hiccup with how poorly Cyberpunk did on PS4 and how big Final Fantasy 16 is already on the PS5 by itself. I think they were like, our stuff's not going to be able to handle this new shit.
Okay.
As well.
So,
but when they first announced it, they never intended it to go to 4 to begin with. It was always a 5. And I was upset about that because I had just gotten a 4, probably like a year before, 2 years before I heard about it. And I was like, bro, I just fucking got this thing. You're going to tell me you're not going to make it for both? So I completely relate with both of you guys.
Now, quick question. Do you have the 4 Slim or the 4 Pro?
I got the console with the disc, so
The Pro.
it's the big
No,
one.
not the
It's
PS5. The
Oh.
PS4. I
Oh,
mean,
I don't
I
think
have-
it's the slim. I think it's
I have the
regular.
I have the second generation, whatever it was, the upgraded one.
Yeah.
I think-
the
got mine on
midlife
Black Friday,
generation
so.
or
Yep.
upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
what
the
I had,
PS4 Pro.
So that's when
Yeah.
I joined the PS4, was that mid tier. That mid
Same.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Same.
But as I understand it, like this generation of consoles is not going to have that mid-tier upgrade, right? That midlife upgrade.
Right.
So, like, I get it, but I just feel like I don't understand why Sony is so hard against, and maybe this is Sony saying, maybe it's not, I don't know, but it seems like Sony exclusives are usually not also ported to PC at the time that they're a Sony console exclusive.
Sure.
Whereas other things, when they're a console exclusive to Xbox, they're also on PC. And that's not just Microsoft stuff. That's anything that's console exclusive to Xbox is also on PC, right?
Right.
There's the PC gamer market that often does not overlap with console gaming at all.
Right.
As far as owning that platform.
Sure.
So they're
right.
And like for a time, yeah, it felt like maybe it wasn't worthwhile, but I think it is again.
Do you think this is a marketing swing that because Final Fantasy 16 is out and because it's doing so well, that maybe this will get people to go buy a PS5? Like you watch.
I'm sure it is.
I'm
sure
like,
this is
we're
a buy
doing
a
this to
PS5
hopefully
game.
get more consoles sold because of this game itself.
Yeah, I think Sony was hoping for a third-party killer app, and that's what this finally is, because PS5 hasn't had a killer app yet, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, this I would feel comfortable saying with, like, you know, a high level of accuracy that this is PS5 exclusive, so that people will finally start chasing the PS5 as they did with the PS4 and the PS3 and the PS. Yeah, I guarantee that this is Sony basically trying to create, as you said, Wulff, the killer app, right?
Right.
So
that's a term that doesn't get thrown around a lot anymore. I feel like I just reached into the time machine for that one.
So,
maybe
you know,
I
mean, here's the thing is maybe Square is kicking themselves, or I don't know, maybe Sony gave them a sweet enough deal that they're not kicking themselves, right?
It's possible. I mean, this could be one of those things where they're like, you get a bigger portion of the sales.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to take a smaller piece of the pie from you guys to keep it PlayStation exclusive for now.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's the only way I can figure it. I can't imagine there's an actual dollar transaction there. Like, we're giving you X amount to be console exclusive for this amount of time. Seems weird to me. I would imagine it's a smaller piece of the pie for Sony for that time frame or whatever. But I don't know.
I don't understand
it just
business.
seems like a strange decision this day and age. To go console exclusive, even timed exclusive, right? Like,
right.
Unless it's first party, I don't get it anymore.
Right.
And Jake has talked about that it seems like Squaresoft might be trying to court Sony into buying them.
Right. Yeah.
But
like a fire sale,
at the same time, at the same time, I can't imagine Sony being able to buy Squaresoft if Xbox can't buy Activision. Like,
right. What's good for the goose, right?
If fourth place can't buy fifth place, how can first place buy anything major?
Right.
But like, it's just
anyways,
wild to me that
this whole episode is intended. This whole episode is intended for everybody to go buy a PS5 and go get Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
16.
go get on it.
Go get on it. Stop what you're doing and go make your life a better.
Stand up right now, Wulff. I'll end the episode. You stand up right now and go buy your PS5.
Go get yourself a PS5. Join me in this cult.
Nah, I'll stick to my Switch and my Steam Deck. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gonna say, I feel like I'm part of the cult of people that think Mount Rainier have snakes in them or something.
I'd pick mine up, but it's upstairs next to the TV right now.
There it is, baby, right there. Valve, right there.
Love me the valves.
Yeah.
Love me the valvies.
And it's gonna be weird when this game actually comes to PC and they have to make it to where you can drop the settings enough to play it on the Steam Deck, because they're gonna have to, right?
Yeah. Right.
Well,
right.
but consider this. Consider this. The PS5 is not terribly much more powerful than the than the Steam Deck, honestly. If you
I
look
mean,
at the specs, because
fair.
remember, the PS5 came out 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, which means it was in develop 5 years ago, right? I mean,
right.
so it's an AM, or it's a Zen 2, I think. We're 2 generations later on the processor, right? I mean, so now that said, the PS5 does have direct storage, which the Steam Deck does not. So there is that. So yeah, you will have to turn down some settings. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to, but it's not as far as like say a PC game that's 4K anyway. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's wild.
yeah,
Pick it up.
Anyway,
Go play it. Enjoy yourself.
I will say 16 looks good.
yeah.
I just wish I could play it too. That's
Well,
where I'm at.
if you're listening to this and you haven't played it and you want to live vicariously, twitch.tv/chardmonk.
Yeah, I feel like you should be
Thank you,
uploading
sir.
these units to YouTube too.
I probably will. I will more than likely do that once things get a little bit deeper in, but I'll probably slap those on there.
With as many people who want to experience the game and don't have a PS5, do it.
I will bring them. I will bring you all along for the ride.
Fantastic.
Speaking of the ride, we
Yeah.
have 100 of them that we have to do, right?
We do. So
Mm.
I can give. Do you?
Somebody else go first.
Yeah, I'll go first.
I'll go first.
Well,
Okay.
I'll tell the whole thing, and then you can go, and then I'll go. So, for those that are unaware or maybe new to the podcast, we are compiling the Press B to Cancel Top 100. It is a curated list by the 5 members of the Press B to Cancel podcast. That's Sick Jake, Guy Prime, Chard Monk, Werewolf, and myself, Sinistar 77. Each week, the hosts of the episode put forward a name to be put on the top 100 list. Once we have 100, we're going to order them. We're going to fight over them. We're going to yell at each other. We're going to be at each other's throats. It's a good thing we don't live near each other. Well, 2 of you do. Yeah, so that's what we're doing here. So, that said, Chard Monk, what is your top 100 game?
I am going with, it's kind of a bleed over because I had selected Resident Evil in a previous episode, but today I'm going to add another horror game to our list that has brought in one of the bigger horror boss tropes of Pyramid Head. Going with Silent Hill 2. Yes. Silent Hill 2 was probably my favorite in the horror games of the PS2 era. Silent Hill 1's decent. It's, it's got its things for its PS1, but Silent Hill 2 really sold the series, really made the series what it was. Introducing Pyramid Head, and everybody fucking knows Pyramid Head. He's a big scary dude with a pyramid on his head, dragging around a giant fucking machete. I don't think I would be quite the gamer without Silent Hill 2 in my life. Hearing that radio start spazzing out every time the nurses got anywhere close to me still makes my butt pucker. And the fact that they are making a remake of said game here in the next couple of months or years, I've never been more excited for a remake as I initially was for Final Fantasy VII until I played it and realized how shitty it was. So this is now taking over that thrill because I absolutely love Silent Hill 2. And if they're going to make a remake of that bad boy, let's fucking go. So Silent Hill 2 is my selection.
Nice. Good selection. Wulff, you look like you have one, or do you want me to go first?
I think so. I need to double check and make sure that it's not been used already.
Okay, then I'm going to go. So this is a game that was I played on the PC, but existed on the Super Nintendo for the Super Nintendo for sure. Blackthorn from Blizzard.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I remember Blackthorn.
Yeah, Blackthorn, for those that haven't played it, if you've played Prince of Persia, it's a Prince of Persia like. I wouldn't say it's a platformer in the sense of running and jumping and all of those things. Like you do those items, but they're slower. but it introduced some really cool concepts like being able to fade into the background. You know, you'd pull up your weapon, you'd hide, you'd come back out, you'd shoot the big ogre dudes. It introduced the probably wasn't the first, but it was one of the first games that I realized that you could kill the people you were trying to save. Like that was always like the first time I shot one of the prisoners, I was like, oh my God. I felt so bad, but has some great puzzle elements. The Super Nintendo has a great soundtrack. I mean, all of them do, but it's all around one of the better Prince of Persia likes. I'm going to call it a Prince of Persia like. That's what I'm going to call it. With combat. Prince of Persia like with combat.
There you go. That was similar vein as Flashback and Another World, if I remember.
Yeah,
right,
interestingly enough,
two games
was
that
actually
I absolutely adore. Yeah.
Another World was actually going to be mine tonight.
Nice. I love Another World. That's
a
great game. I love Another World.
Another World. I mean, it's on basically everything, right? It was on Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega CD, PC.
Also called, it was Another World in the US. Out of This World.
Out of This World was another one.
It was called Out of This World in the US for a long time before it finally got called Another World. So, whatever you want to call it, but
what system are you calling out?
I think I got to call out the Sega CD version because that's the one I've played all the way through.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Hey, that's our first Sega CD entry.
I've played it on Amiga, I've played it on Super Nintendo, and I've played it on PC, but Sega CD was the first one I actually beat. And that was a great game. Amiga was the first time I played it.
Right.
Because my uncle was like, he loved Amiga. So that was really cool. Like it was
a couple years back, they had an anniversary edition of Another World released on the Xbox. And I picked it up and I beat it on my Xbox.
Yeah. I just remember inching up to the little worm things because the hitbox was so weird on that if you happen to do it wrong, you die. Like just yeah.
God, I love that game.
Yeah, I do. I have Another World 20th Anniversary Edition on Steam.
One of the coolest, one of the most memorable it's almost intros for me with like the car sliding in and
it was
it's a relatively short game too, right? Isn't it? If I remember right.
I think if you know what you're doing, you can get through the game in like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's not even like hardcore speed running, right? That's just like you know the game in and out.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's really cool. Like they put you on this very alien planet. The game is really stylized artistically.
Yeah.
And it looks super cool. Everything is very like, what am I looking at? Cool. And then like you meet this alien and your human dude is trying to interact with this alien dude and they don't share any, there's no common language, there's no common anything really. But they still sort of interact and kind of understand each other because one's a prisoner and the other one also becomes a prisoner, right?
Right.
So you meet him and he's like, Macaruba. And all of a sudden you're buddies.
Right.
That's awesome.
And it's so cool. Like this is such a great game.
Yep.
And the art style, it's very striking.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Even to this day, like it's this weird like vector art I think they used, right?
Vector like meets kind of rotoscoping, meets kind of like it's so unique. I'm trying to think of another.
It's like
game
rotoscoped vector art kind of deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's really cool, and it has aged really well visually.
It has.
It still looks so good. It's the story. It's nothing too wild and crazy. It's like, I mean, obviously it's very sci-fi. You're on an alien planet.
Sure.
You got to work your way through and find your way home. But there's not a lot of actual story there. It's all unfolds as you play for the most part.
Right.
There's very short little cutscenes throughout the game, but they're not much. And you just get to experience this very cinematic ride in a 2D platformer essence.
Yeah.
It's super cool. Like you're cruising through the vents and you see guys fighting below you because you've started some shit between them. It's so cool.
Yep.
This is a game that belongs on a top 100 list.
Absolutely. Great call out.
I just picked it up for $2.49.
Yeah, it's on sale right now because of the Steam Summer Sale.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're listening right now or in the very near future, Steam sale's going on. Sorry, wallets.
It's a summer sale right now.
Sorry, wallets.
Yeah, no shit. No shit.
That's a great game. That's gonna get a good vote for me when we finally shake this out.
Hell yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Excellent.
Watch this one.
But it's funny, the little snake worm creatures. It's funny because I like on the Super Nintendo when I actually got to put a lot of time into it before I beat it on Sega CD. I always thought they looked like little angry belts. Like I died to a belt. What is that?
Yeah.
It's another world, man.
Yeah, it's another world. You've got angry belts in other worlds. It's fine.
Yeah. Angry murderous belts.
That's right.
We call those snakes.
Yeah. Danger noodles. Danger belts. Danger belt.
Murder belt.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Beautiful. All right, guys. GG's.
Man, it's funny how often we've kind of like hit the same vein with top 100s on a week. But yeah, I think that's a good place to call it. We've been at this episode for a little while now.
Yeah.
Go play 16 if you can. If you can't,
join me.
Wait a year and a half, you'll get there.
Join me.
or watch it vicariously through Chard.
Yeah, or watch Chard play it. Either way, you're good.
I'll play it for you and I'll put it on YouTube.
Play a game.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. Come check us out on Discord. You can find us at pressbtocancel.com. Links to our Discord is there. Other social medias as well, but we like Discord. And is there anything you guys would like to shout out?
Tell your friends.
Chard, I know you're playing 16 for a while. Are you playing anything else or just that?
I don't know. I'm getting the retro itch, so I might go back and play in some old school retro. I've had ever since we did the DuckTales episode. I've been wanting to play Rescue Rangers, so because we talked about it so much, and I watched Malaria played it the other day. Mel plays games. She was playing it, and I was like, "Fuck, I should probably scoop that one up and see if I'm any good at it anymore." So, I might be making my way back over. I might not. I might stay on 16 for the rest of my life. I don't know. I have no intentions of leaving that game until we finish it. And then I've got Last of Us that I still want to play for you guys, and a bunch of other games that are still on the list. But the itch to play retro is starting to return, so we might go back to some retro stuff.
How about yourself, Sinistar?
So I'm taking some personal time to build some skills right now. You guys know why. I'm not going to go into it, but so I may or may not be streaming in the near future, but if I do, it'll be here on the Press B to Cancel YouTube channel. And I do intend to complete Chrono before the end of the year.
Alrighty. And I am probably going to start streaming something every Wednesday from about 2 Pacific on the Press B to Cancel channel on YouTube.
Wulff's back to streaming.
I think that's the fun way to do it. It's a nice balance. I get to stream once a week. I get to help the channel grow, and I could just, I don't know. I'm on the fence about either. I feel like that's not enough time to beat 16 playing 2 to 3 hours a week. Or not 66, 6. Final Fantasy, the one behind you.
Definitely not enough time to play.
But 16. I don't know if that's enough time to play 6 either. So that one I might just have to just power through and finally beat, and maybe I'll record the end of it, like first time reaction or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna start trying to make that a Wednesday thing. See if I can stick to that long term and hopefully keep it going, because I had a lot of fun playing Bubsy 3D, even though I hated playing Bubsy 3D. I didn't think it was going to be so bad.
Ugh.
Yeah, I played Bubsy. For those of you who don't know, I did play Bubsy 3D finally for my Wheel of Pain. And
for
I put
an
it on the YouTube channel here.
And 59 minutes and 59 seconds.
I know I've repeated this to you guys through Marco Polo a few times, but I'm going to say it here. Apparently my internet got fed up with how bad that game is and took a dump at almost the 2-hour mark of my streaming.
So he still owes us at least a second.
I kept
Fantastic.
playing for 5 minutes, hoping the internet would come back up, and it was just a hiccup, but it didn't happen. And then it's funny because Chard thought I was so mad and fed up with the game that I just ended the stream without like any fanfare.
It was abrupt,
which is
it was really
hilarious.
abrupt.
But no, instead, I was hoping it had come back after a few minutes, realizing it had ended. And I was like, well, I'll keep playing for a few minutes and see what happens. And then I got fed up with the game and just shut it off because I was sick of its shit.
Fair.
It took 5 extra minutes for me to get fed up with it.
Fair.
Hey, I think I put 2 hours and 10-ish minutes into Dragon's Lair, and that was more than enough time.
More than enough.
I basically was like, I'm going to finish these lives out. And instead of just like doing what I should have done and just like jump into the lava or whatever, I actually played.
He did. I watched him. That was it.
I mean, I actually played Bubsy. I got through one.
I watched
that
a little bit too. Did Wulff get any retro achievements?
No, I specifically turned off retro achievements after I got all the achievements in Where's Waldo. Those are the only retro achievements I'm ever getting. I'm saying that right now. Where's Waldo for the NES? I mastered retro achievements.
I'm the retro achievement guy. I will go and get your achievos for you. Don't worry about it.
Fantastic.
I thought it would be just funny. I'm not an achievement driven guy.
Yeah.
So just going and getting them in Where's Waldo and calling it as my retro achievements career.
Good. It's so good.
That was perfect.
Well done.
So good.
Well done.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Wonderful episode. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We appreciate every single one of you. And come and check us out again next week.
I've been doing it better all week and I fucked it up. I'm sorry, guys.
Perfect.